All right, let's get right into this because it's a fascinating story. Back in 1980, archaeologists working in a Jerusalem suburb called East Talpiot found a family tomb from the first century. Now, what they found inside kicked off a huge debate, one that's still going on today. See, this place, which people now call the Jesus family tomb, had a collection of names that just seemed way too specific to be a coincidence. But there was one name in the mix that just didn't seem to fit.
And what makes this so wild is the cluster of names they found on these limestone bone boxes. You've got Yeshua, son of Joseph, Maria, Yossi, which is a really rare version of the name Yossis, Maria Mani, who a lot of scholars think is Mary Magdalene, Yehuda, son of Yeshua, and then there's this one, Mattia. That's the Hebrew for Matthew. And for a long time, this one name seemed to pull the whole theory apart at the seams. So here's the bottom line. For critics, that Matthia ossuary was the smoking gun, the proof that this couldn't possibly be the family tomb of Jesus. And why? Well, it's simple. The Gospels never, ever list a Matthew as one of Jesus' immediate brothers. So Matthew was this anomaly, this outsider. For years, people just figured, well, maybe he was a distant cousin, or maybe the husband of one of the women in the tomb. But it turns out, the answer was hiding in plain sight all along. So, to figure out who Mattia really is, we have to put on our detective hats and look at the Gospels a little differently. Not just as religious books, but as historical records that have some really precise family data baked right into them. And the identity of this so-called mystery man? It's encoded right there in the text. And here it is, our first huge clue. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus calls a tax collector named Levi, and we know from the Gospel of Matthew that Levi is Matthew. Now, pay super close attention to how he's introduced. Levi, the son of Alphaeus. Okay, file that away. Then, just one chapter later, we get a list of the apostles, and who do we find? Another guy with the exact same tag, James, the son of Alphaeus. You see where this is going, right? If both Matthew and James are sons of the same guy, Alphaeus, that means they're brothers. They're from the exact same household. So who is this Alphaeus guy? This is where it gets really interesting, because Alphaeus wasn't a common first name back then. In fact, you basically never see it in the archaeological record. And there's a good reason for that. It's not a personal name at all. It's a title. Okay, stick with me here. The name Alphaeus is just the Greek spelling of a Semitic root, HLP or Halphi, and that root means to succeed, to exchange, or to replace. You know the Arabic word caliph or caliph? It comes from the exact same root and also means successor. So when the text says son of Alphaeus, it doesn't mean his dad's name was Alphaeus. It means son of the successor. It's a dynastic title. And this is how we can be so sure. That same Aramaic title, Halphi, got translated into Greek in two slightly different ways. For some audiences, it became Klopas. For others, it became Alphaeus. But these aren't two different people. They're two different spellings for the exact same Aramaic title, the successor. They mean the same thing. Now let's jump to the history books, because this is the piece that locks it all together. There was a historian in the 2nd century named Hegesippus, and he actually interviewed the descendants of Jesus' family, and he tells us, point blank, that Clopas, who we now know is Alphaeus, the successor, was the brother of Joseph, Jesus' earthly father. So this means James and Matthew aren't just random followers. They're Jesus' first cousins. They are direct family. Okay, but wait, this brings up one last, really obvious question. If Matthew is part of this super tight-knit family, a brother or a cousin, why in the world is he missing from the most famous list of Jesus' brothers in the Gospels? Right, when the crowd in Jesus' hometown, Nazareth, starts listing off his family, they name 4 brothers, James, Joses, Judas, and Simon, no Matthew. For the longest time, this was a huge problem for the theory. If he's a brother, why didn't his own neighbors even mention him? And the answer, the solution to this whole puzzle, is actually incredibly simple. It's elegant. It's not some complicated theory. It's just geography. Just think back. Where was Matthew when Jesus called him? He was sitting at a tax collector's booth, and that booth was in Capernaum, which was a big trading town on the Sea of Galilee. That's about 20 miles away from the family home in Nazareth. He had physically left town to take a pretty controversial job working for the Romans. And here it is. This is the moment it all clicks into place. Look at how that verse in Mark ends. After naming the brothers, the crowd asks, "And are not his sisters here with us?" That phrase changes everything. They weren't reciting a complete family tree from memory. Their list was based on who was literally standing there in the village at that moment. And Matthew wasn't here with us. He was 20 miles down the road in Capernaum. They didn't name him for the simple reason that he wasn't there. So let's take all of this new information and go all the way back to that dusty tomb in Talpiot, because with this new understanding of the family, the whole picture just snaps into focus.
Suddenly, the ossuary with Machia on it is no longer the loose thread that makes the whole thing fall apart. It becomes the anchor that locks it all down. The one piece that seemed to disprove the whole thing is actually one of the strongest pieces of evidence confirming it. So you see, Matthew wasn't some random guy. As Levi, son of Alphaeus, he was a son of the successor. He was Jesus' own cousin. So of course he's in that family tomb. His presence is exactly what we should expect. He was the brother who left for a difficult job, the one who was called back into the family by Jesus, and the one who was ultimately buried right there with his siblings. He was home.
The key to this entire mystery was just understanding that Alphaeus wasn't a name, but a dynastic title that was hiding in plain sight for 2,000 years. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If a brother's true identity could be hidden by a single misunderstood word, what other family secrets are still just waiting for us in these ancient texts?